I think you'll be having our special, a tough, stringy entree called Teen-age Strangler. Frank, served with a distasteful little appetizer about love or some such slop. Frank!
This time we watched Season 5, Episode 14, Teen-age Strangler.
And unfortunately, we'll never learn whether it's a teenage strangler, a strangler of teenagers, or just a strangler, you know?
Yeah, but don't worry, there's also a short, Is This Love? And we got quite a lot of lovely follow-up from our last episode.
Oh, how excellent. Start me off.
I won't. I simply won't. I'll tell you that there were a lot of people who wanted to write in and talk about candy, and there were people who wanted to write in and talk about cassettes, and people who wanted to apologize for all the fascism. But we don't have time for that because, as you remember, I had to insert some big news. The final episode has been found.
Yay! There's some fanfare like music you can put in the background of this, right? Woo woo!
Exactly. Yes, the last KTMA episode has been found. This is very exciting.
It totally is. The other day, I was walking around with my MST3K shirt on, and somebody who I'd never met before came up and said, "Oh, I love that shirt. Did you hear the big news?" And I was like, yes, KTMA number 3 found. And I was like, this is the weirdest interaction in the wild I think I've ever had.
So I will read a piece of follow-up for you from devoted listener Adam, a.k.a. former host Adam.
Oh, I think I remember him.
Yes, who wrote in to say, what a year for lost media this has been. First, a dying collector's desire to get his collection cataloged and give copies of any missing shows/films to their respective copyright holders or estates resulted in the rediscovery of 2 long-missing Doctor Who episodes.
Nice.
Now, the missing, presumed wiped, KTMA 3 is in our very proverbial hands. What a time to be alive.
Yay! I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, Chris. Have you?
I've just watched a little bit of it because, spoiler alert, it's an episode we're going to be doing before too long. We were always planning on doing it before too long.
Yay!
And I had all sorts of exciting plans for how we were going to deal with the fact that we didn't have it, but we're going to do an episode about it anyways. And I guess I don't have to do that anymore.
I feel like we should have the episode that would have been and the episode that can actually be now. We should do them side by side.
I mean, I'm more excited to have this piece of lost media, so to speak, than I am in having the fun of doing that. I guess I'm glad we waited so long to do it. But yes, I've looked at it a little bit just to enjoy how, lovely the tape quality is, all things considered.
Yeah, so much of the KTMA era, like the tapes that we have are so fuzzy and the audio is so jumbled.
Well, the spelunkers out there keep finding better and better copies, so that's very good.
Go spelunking.
And yeah, that whole story about the Doctor Who stuff, which several people wrote in to tell me about, which I had already known, but that's fine. I'm excited to hear from everybody. There's a lot of missing Doctor Who episodes from the early days, and it's entirely likely that more of them will be found over the years. And I mean, I'm not a Whovian really, but I'm very happy that they keep finding them.
And someday they might have a complete set too.
I kind of doubt it, but who knows? Maybe.
Who knows?
I mean, I never thought we'd have a complete set of MST3K.
Really? Never? You didn't hold it somewhere secret in your heart for no one to really know?
No, why? We didn't feel like we were going to have them. Like, we'd had plenty of time to do it. I mean, I guess there's always the possibility, but it was a pleasant surprise when the first 2 episodes dropped, and it was an even bigger surprise when this one just happened. So who knows? In addition to that news, we have a little bit of news as well to share, which is that we were invited onto another podcast, Talking Pondo, where they talk about movies.
They do.
They picked a movie for us to watch. We picked a movie for them to watch. And we ended up talking about which 2 movies?
America's Sweethearts and Purple Rain.
So something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a fun conversation. I think you'll agree.
Oh, absolutely. It was great fun.
But That was a lot of follow-up and a lot of news, and then we gotta get to either being teenagers who strangle or strangling some teenagers.
Do we have to strangle teenagers? I feel like that's not the look I really want to put out in the world. Maybe we could just be in love, Chris. This time we watch Season 5, Episode 14, Teen-age Strangler.
But first, a short. Is this love? Meet Peg. Peg is a college student, and she's just gotten engaged to Joe. Peg and Joe have only been going out for 3 months, but they're in love, and they're loving it. Peg's roommate, Liz, thinks the two of them might be jumping the gun. Liz and her fiancé, Andy, have been together for a year or so, and they're waiting until they're done with college to get married. Peg's parents pop by and propose postponing the nuptials until college is over, and Joe's career as a professional football player is secured. If they wait a little, her parents will help them financially, get them a house and such. But Peg doesn't want to wait, so she and Joe run off to elope. Now, tell me, is this love? Well, is it? The end.
And now for our feature presentation. Kids these days, am I right? No one knows what's going on in those tiny little minds of theirs. Lieutenant Anderson sure would like to, though. There's been a horrific series of crimes in this town. People, no teenagers, girl teenagers have been strangled left and right. The pressure is on for the police force to solve these heinous crimes. But when the lieutenant asks these kids what they're doing and where they are at night, no one gives them a straight answer. What just the other night, Betty was walking home with her friend, and then she turns around and sees her being strangled. But will Betty tell him why she was out and what she was doing? Okay, actually she does, and it was to be with a boy, so I guess she's a little helpful, but mostly she just doesn't want to believe the strangler of teenagers could be a teenager themselves. And then there's her parents. They're up at all hours, not at home. They don't even know where their kid is at night because they're out too. There's a series of crimes against teenagers going on, but these darn kids won't stay home, even after curfew. They won't even stay home when the lieutenant specifically asks them to. Lieutenant Anderson asked Jimmy, Betty's boyfriend, to stay in for goodness sakes. But does he? Nope. He's out trying to hook up with his girl. And what happens? Another strangling, so it makes sense that he's a prime suspect. Down at the local diner, these kids are drinking soda and dancing and singing and fighting. It's just a mess. It's a mess of teenagers being messy with their messy lives. Thank goodness there's a solid citizen in the school's janitor. He's been keeping an eye on these kids and following them around and confiscating their stuff, and sometimes he looks at them like he's Freddy Krueger, but that nightmare won't start for another 20 years, so it makes sense that Lieutenant Anderson sort of overlooks him. And it makes sense that it takes a ragtag bunch of kids to solve these crimes. Up at all hours, those kids have been chasing each other around, finding clues, drag racing, and apparently not stealing bikes, and also not strangling each other. The kids call Lieutenant Anderson down to the school, and they all arrive just in time to see the janitor trying to strangle Betty. Well, with a long history of resenting teenagers, especially the female ones, it was the janitor all along. Lieutenant Anderson saves Betty by shooting him. Then, thankfully, it's an end to all strife in this town. The end.
Meanwhile, on the Satellite of Love, this one is only a few episodes into Mike's tenure on the Satellite of Love, and Mike is already desperate to go home. He tries to call his grandmother on the phone, and she totally pranks him with one of those answering machine messages where you think they've picked up, but then, haha, they haven't. It's just an answering machine. Oh, Okay, for our younger listeners, an answering machine was... Oh, okay, sorry. For our younger listeners, calling someone on the phone... Well, never mind. Ask your parents. Anyway, it's early enough in Mike's years that we're still doing an invention exchange, and Frank's been restless lately, so Dr. F has put him in the Frankenforcer. It's one of those bouncy things for babies to soothe themselves with, but Dr. F has put a bed of spikes under Frank's feet. That'll keep him on his toes. Or, I guess, not. Meanwhile, Crow and Tom are playing a nice little game of Ladies Who Lunch, but they can't seem to get their Waitron's attention. So they devise the Waiter Baiter. It's not quite as bad as that sounded. It's just an arm that swings back and forth in a regular motion. Anyway, it eventually does summon Mike to take their order. After the short, Mike is inspired to read one of his favorite love poems, a sonnet by E.E. Cummings. But Tom and Crow are only interested in scandalous celebrity love affairs. It's all fun and games until Mike mentions Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson's collapsing marriage. Their love wasn't a forever love. Tom is overwhelmed with tears. After some yipe stripes, Crow and Tom are playing a nice little game of Crips and Bloods? Sorry, their gang names are actually Cro-Magnons and Hover-Mothers. Anyway, they're about to have a big old turf war when Mike steps in to rap. To have some open and honest dialogue with them. Like most white saviors, he's very effective. Then, Crow and Tom trick Mike into putting on some glasses that short-circuit his brain and turn him into Mikey, the younger brother of Jimmy in today's movie, that they've been making a lot of fun of the whole time. Mike then puts the glasses on Crow, who tries to resist Mikey-ification, but it's no use. The power of Mikey compels us all. After the movie, Mike tries to bring a little more depth to the murderous, resentful janitor from the movie. It comes off a little condescending to janitors, but I guess not as much as the movie does. And back on Deep 13, Frank is still in the Frankenforcer, but all that bouncing has caused him to be sick. Good thing Dr. F had a few bags of sawdust at the ready. What do you think, sirs?
Okay, Chris, hear me out on this one. I think this movie might be the origin story for Freddy Krueger.
It's very possible. There are a lot of tropes in this movie that seem a little ahead of their time. I say as somebody who doesn't watch this kind of movie, but I've heard people say that as well. I don't know. But yeah, no, it definitely does have a bit of the Freddy Krueger vibe to it at times.
You got the guy who hates kids, and he's killing kids all around town, and he's a janitor. It's at a school and not at a power plant, which is what happens in the real movie. And then, he comes back to enact his revenge. I think that this might have been some, crazy inspiration for Freddy Krueger. I don't know.
How would they have come up with Freddy Krueger on their own?
Yeah, exactly, because no one hates kids and teenagers or anything like that. They would never think that kids are just out there doing their wacky things. I don't know.
Now, this is a movie set in a high school. You, as your day job, work in a high school. Did this look all too familiar?
No, this doesn't look at all familiar. There's lockers on the wall. I'll grant them that.
Yes.
And there is a janitor with a master key that can go through everything that's inside of your locker at any point in time without needing to actually ask any authorities for permission to do so.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's important for kids to know, right? Whatever you leave in your locker at school can be searched at any time because it is at school property. They don't need to have a search warrant for it at all.
Yep.
Right? So there's the janitor just, opening it up with his master key and finding incriminating evidence inside.
Well, no, finding the lack of incriminating evidence, finding the alibi inside.
It's true, actually. It's true. The alibi inside. I was surprised, actually. I guess he didn't really have time as the janitor to kind of pivot from framing Jimmy for the crime to framing the other guy whose name I'm not remembering right.
Curly is the person who we're supposed to think is the bad guy.
That's right, because that's why they're whooping all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, so, There's that janitor. Yeah, I don't know. There's no teachers in this. We never get to see the school. So the realm of the high school that I'm most familiar with as an adult is not a part of this. But yeah, it might have looked like my mom's high school or something. Who can say? What did it look like a school to you? You went to an alternative school. You don't know what real high school looks like. Did they sell it to you, though? Did you think, oh, this must be what high school was?
I mean, I believed it was what high school was in Huntington, West Virginia in 1964 because they used the real high school.
Did they use the real high? Did they actually? Well, I guess we might talk about this later, but it feels like all of the sets were part of the locker room rather than the school at large.
The external shots are the real one. I don't know if the internal shots are or not, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Is this the first time you've seen this episode?
I think it might be. I mean, I remember Mikey, so I feel like there are, I don't know, maybe flashbacks to this that they use later, or maybe I've seen small shorts of this, but I don't think I had seen the entire episode before because I didn't remember Is This Love?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love this episode. I love the movie. I love the short. I love Mikey quite a lot.
Oh, that's so good. I'm really glad that you do because Mikey takes a beating from these riffers, and they're not all fun riffs that they have about Mikey. It was really, parts of their riffing of him were really difficult to listen to. Now,
it went a bit far occasionally, but nevertheless, Mikey shined above him just like he shined out through this movie. You cannot keep Mikey down.
No, you cannot.
He just, look, the camera loves him. He just has so much screen presence. The minute he walks on for his first scene, which is, he's just meant to sort of come in, say, like, establish that he exists, leave, and then we're going to get a more in-depth scene with him. But it suddenly changes the dynamics of everything.
He does give good little brother energy. There's no question.
Well, and exactly. And the dad is trying so hard to be like the stentorian father type. And young man, you've done terrible things to it. And he's like, got this weird accent, and it doesn't.
Totally.
It does. It's so dull.
Totally.
And Mikey comes screaming through. And it's like, thank God somebody. I mean, all right. We're talking about Mikey already. I'm just going to keep talking about them.
Excellent.
It is, unfortunately, this is John Humphrey's only movie role. And we'll talk about that in a second.
I mean, what could he have followed this with,
Well, he could have left West Virginia, moved to Baltimore, and then been in any number of John Waters films.
Absolutely. Okay, 100%. He could have been John Waters' very best friend ever.
It would have been so good. It would have been so good. Sadly, that didn't quite happen, but we'll always keep that in our mind. And I'm just glad we got a slice of that. It is one of the all-time performances. Torgo, Mikey, I don't know, Ortega, I don't know, someone else maybe.
See, you do have little secret corners of your heart where you hold things. And Mikey knowing John Waters is one of them.
Well, all right. Hey, we've already started talking about it. Let's just get into the topics. Let's just get to this. Let's just get proper to it.
Fantastic.
This film was made in Huntington, West Virginia.
As the accents might have indicated.
As some of the accents might have indicated, because...
Okay, it's true. Some more than others.
Because this is not a situation like Demon Squad where everybody lives in the town that isn't Hollywood and is putting on a movie with their friends, and maybe they're putting together a staple of local actors and highlighting the local scene. No, that's not what this is. Apparently, and information about this movie is a little hard to come by, but apparently some of the business people, Chamber of Commerce types decided to hire a director and bring him in and bring a few actors in and pay to have a movie made in Huntington.
Did they know it was going to be a movie about killing kids? I mean, that doesn't quite seem like the movie that's really going to put your town on the map in a positive way and encourage tourism.
I do not know. And it may be too late to find out.
Because, I would totally go to Mobile, Alabama to see the demons, right? Sign me up. I'm there for that, right? I watched Buffy for a number of years, and Demon Squad is calling me to Mobile, Alabama. But Teen-age Strangler is not making me want to go to West Virginia.
Oh, well, it might be fine.
If Mikey's still there, maybe, but I want him to be in Baltimore now.
Unfortunately, Mikey passed away a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
John Humphreys, who played Mikey, was one of the many local actors who fill in. Well, I say actors, local citizens. It's one of the many local citizens who were not trained actors who filled in the bulk of the smaller parts.
Would that also be like Anne, the girl who gets strangled in our beginning scenes before the opening credits?
Yeah, Lieutenant Anderson and Betty and Jimmy, I believe, had all come from elsewhere. Maybe one or two other people. You can tell from the accents who it's coming from. Huntington.
Yeah, definitely why I was calling out Anne, because she's one of the first characters who comes in with an accent where you're thinking like one of these things is not like the others.
Exactly. John Humphreys was 16 when the film was made. He had no training in acting, and so he took his lead by basically watching what Jo Canterbury, who played Betty, was doing.
Oh, okay.
And since some of her scenes required her to you might remember there's an early scene where she's very emotional and she's crying and her voice is shaking. And
it just couldn't have been one of those kids. It just couldn't have been.
And so, I guess that taught John Humphreys everything he needed to know about acting.
And he didn't steal no bike either.
He just turns that on like a dime, and it's amazing. He does such a more fun job with it than she does.
Wow. Yes. I mean, he doesn't also have the burden of trying to convey teenage love, so good for him, you know?
Nope. But also, John Humphreys was invited to and attended the very first MST3K Convention Con Expo Festorama.
No way! That's so amazing. How was he received?
I mean, I wasn't there, but I think he was warmly received, and he got to tell some stories of this, and this is how we know about how he learned how to act and so forth.
Oh my goodness, yes. Did he talk about why he didn't choose to continue acting and just kind of, went back to being a kid?
I mean, I think the parts all dried up in Huntington, West Virginia, where he spent the rest of his life.
Oh.
He passed away, sadly, in 2022, so not that long ago.
No.
And his great niece, the granddaughter of his brother, shared the news to Reddit and added a little personal memory along that thread. She said, from what I heard from old family stories at his memorial service, he ran a vintage clothing store out of his apartment near Yale's campus in the 80s that at one point provided clothing for a movie being filmed there. He was also a pretty scary substitute teacher at my middle school later in life, where he convinced all the kids he was a vampire. He is missed. John Waters should have gotten in touch with this guy.
I don't understand how he missed him. West Virginia's not that far from Baltimore.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
He could have easily afforded the bus money to bring him out for female trouble or whatever.
Crybaby. He would have been great in Crybaby.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. That's so phenomenal. I mean, substitute teaching is a really difficult job, and there is a substitute teacher at my school and inside of the Portland area who goes by the name Dragon Master. And I've never met him because, of course, substitutes only come into your classroom when you're not there. But the kids were all like, yeah, Dragon Master was my English teacher yesterday.
Amazing.
I can't process those things. So to think that, yeah, the vampire was back. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, he sounds a treat. I hope he really was. It's just amazing. I'm so glad we got to encounter this. I'm so glad that MST3K shared this gem with a wider audience. So good.
Oh, Mikey.
There's one other person who is a little worth pointing out in this, which is that at one point you might remember that a guy, a sort of awkward guy with glasses, older guy, who's introduced as the county sheriff, comes on camera to warn parents and teenagers that events are happening. And
it's like a newscast or something like that on the TV, and he's like reading a statement and it's really stilted and awkward. That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that was Harold Frankel. He was the county sheriff.
Oh, you'd think he would have been a little bit more practiced at reading things over the news.
I don't know. He was also like a local business owner. He owned a hotel that had a tiki bar, as well as a few other businesses. And he eventually, about 10 years later, would spend a few years as the mayor of Huntington.
Oh.
Huntington seems like that kind of town.
Yeah. Where you, once you're in one political office, you kind of move between all of them.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, that guy didn't give off major sheriff vibes to me.
No, nor did he give off major politician vibes. He gave off major awkward vibes.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mostly know Huntington because that's where the McElroy brothers are from My Brother, and Me, and the like. But, that's not part of West Virginia that I've been to, so.
No, the only parts of West Virginia I've been to, I went to with you.
Oh, yes, we were just talking about West Virginia last time.
We were, because we talked about Grandpa Joe's sweet shop or candy store, whichever it was.
In Wheeling, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the other fun little detail about the making of this movie is that the story, I'm told, is that they had, the 5 reels of film that they'd put together, and then they sent it all off to New York to be edited.
Okay.
But I guess they were on different cars or trains or in different packages or whatever. One of the reels got lost in transit.
You mean there's a whole 20 minutes of this movie that could have been that isn't?
Yes.
What would have happened in those 20 minutes?
At one point, they announced another girl got murdered, and that was apparently... I don't think we needed that, frankly. I think the movie is fine as it is, but...
No, we got to have our strangle in the beginning to, call everybody into the movie. We got to have our, I dropped off my girl and now she's disrobing and getting into the shower and then being strangled. We need to have a little bra action. We got to have the old lady being strangled, she's not really that old. She's a mom. She was probably my age. God, I got to stop thinking that people are old who are my age.
You got to accept that you're old.
No, it's true. I'm going to embrace it. Embrace.
You're 3 weeks older than me. You are old as dirt.
But yeah, I mean, we've got all the strangling that we need. I'm not sure what kind of salacious details would have happened in a 4th strangling on screen. 5th, I guess, if we're including Betty as a near strangle.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But that's a lot of death to have on screen for a movie.
If you're going to a movie called Teen-age Strangler, you want to see the strangling.
Do I, though? I don't know.
Well, you probably wouldn't go to a movie called Teen-age Strangler if you didn't know.
I did go, Chris. I just watched it.
You went to a show called Mystery Science Theater 3000, and they foisted Teen-age Strangler upon you.
Okay, I guess that's true. But they teased me with Is This Love? So I'm there, right? Chris, they enticed me into this show with the short, Is This Love? And I know last time I was like, Is this love, baby, don't hurt me? That wasn't quite the right fit. Is this love that I'm feeling maybe is a little bit better? And then at the end of the short, there's this whole segment where they talk about celebrity couples. And I'm on the celebrity, watching what happens to them train. I enjoy a little celebrity gossip from now and then. And not all of those couples seemed like either great examples of romance to inspire love, nor do they seem like trash heaps of love either. So what's going on there? Are there good examples of love inside of the big list that they gave us?
Of course there are. And I mean, that's sort of the point of it is that it's a wide variety of different types of love and so forth. But yes, several of them were couples who were about to collapse, like Bert and Lonnie.
Yes. I have to admit, even though I was a kid at the time, I was sad about Bert and Lonnie as well. Not as devastated as Tom, perhaps. It didn't make me cry on Mike's shoulder or anything, but they just seem so good for each other.
I mean, I just had fondness for Lonnie Anderson because, WKRP. That's all I knew her for.
Sure. And Burt Reynolds just seemed like so much fun in all of the Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit movies. And they just seemed like they had similar comedic energy.
I guess so. I still think she could have done better.
Well, usually I think that about most women in couples.
Did you have big feelings about Emilio Estevez and Paula Abdul, who were also in a very short-lived romance and marriage that was about to break up when this episode came out?
I mean, alas, no, I didn't even remember that they were married.
Right. And then in a very different sense, they bring up Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, who, now this feels a little bit awkward because, of course, this came out in November 93, April 94 is when Kurt Cobain passed. So,
yeah.
Oops.
Yes. And Their romance from the outside seemed a little bit more charged, I guess is the term.
Tabloid friendly, let's say.
Yes, very tabloid friendly. Oh, my goodness. As Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith would be, too. Although all the time when I think of Melanie Griffith, I always think of her with Antonio Banderas.
Well, maybe they were happier together. I don't know.
I don't know.
But, several of the people on the list also had a love that lasted forever. Or, until death, at least. Edie Gourmet and Steve Lawrence were married for a good long while. John and Yoko, although they did have some troubles,
Sure,
were married until death and had sort of dealt with the troubles, it seemed, by the end of that. They mentioned Jack Douglas and Reiko, which is a wild poll, but Jack Douglas is a comedy writer, and one of his books I read when I was a kid, and it's very autobiographical. It's called Shut Up and Eat Your Snowshoes, and it's all about the story of him taking his whole family and moving to the north of Ontario and roughing it and, trying to move from Hollywood. He was like a writer who would show up on the Johnny Carson show and write jokes for celebrities and write his own things. Anyway.
I don't know him and Reiko at all.
No,
that's
no
not
one
a
does.
name that I know.
I just happened to have a random book that my parents had or something that I read as a kid when I was far too young for some of the jokes in there. And it just meant a lot to me. And there are still parts of it that mean a lot to me. It's weird. It's weird. Sometimes you just read a book and you connect with somebody and you just happen to know this random 50s comedian that nobody ever talks about anymore.
And then once again, it becomes the riff that's almost speaking only to you, because who else is going to get that piece of the segment coming at them the way you did?
Exactly. Anyway, they were together until death did they part. And Joanne Woodward and Paul Newman, who get mentioned here, were married for 50 years before Paul passed. Joanne is still alive.
Oh,
she's like 92 or something.
Oh my goodness. That's phenomenal. And certainly when they mentioned Joanne and Paul, I was like, oh no, the Newmans, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, they really were a devoted couple from all of the external things that they put out into the world, right? And you don't always have full control over the image of your celebrity that gets put out into the world, but they seemed genuinely happy with each other, and good for them. That's a hard life to have, being a celebrity.
Yeah. They also mentioned Glenn Campbell and Tanya Tucker, who, as I understand it, dated briefly around 1980. And then Glenn married somebody else in 82.
They seem like a wild couple to have gotten together in the first place,
I suppose so. But being invested in their relationship in this context is very funny because it was quite finished. So you are, the local expert on rom-coms and therefore presumably the expert on love here.
Wow, let's not put that on me.
Did you find love in this short?
It's very interesting that they put three couples in front of us, right? An old married couple that's just trying to check in with their daughter and make sure she gets everything she needs for her life. A short-lived couple that's burning hot and getting married quickly. And then this slow burn couple that's been together for a really long time and had the love that's grown over time as they've had lots of conversations. And all of them seem perfectly reasonable examples of love for different people. I don't understand why we're pitting them against each other in the short and making one seem better than the other. I guess I just don't want to be the person who tells somebody that their love is crap. That doesn't seem very fair at all.
I love that the short doesn't ask us to question the parents' love.
No, they don't. But quite honestly, that's an example of people who have come together in love and built a life.
I guess. You're allowed to have some suspicions. Mike and the bots certainly do.
Sure, but they suspect everything.
Well, yes, and that's their job. But yeah, yes. I don't know. We obviously this is just fictional. We're just seeing these little slices of things. But but that's clearly the model, right? They're not questioned because that is the goal, is to be able to raise a kid who hopefully won't grow up to be as screwed up as Peg is, I guess.
Is Peg screwed up? I don't know.
Of course not. She's impulsive, but she's also living under stifling parents for her whole life.
Are her parents truly all that stifling? I mean, I know she thinks they're stifling, but they got a telegram saying she was engaged, and their choice was to come to the school and check in on her and see if if they could meet the guy. Like, is that really a terrible thing for parents to do? Are we saying that they're crushing her dreams because they want to meet the man that she's gonna marry? That seems like an impossible thing to expect of parents, not to be like, oh my God, dear, I got a telegram from our daughter. She's getting married. She just got engaged. Honey, maybe we should go visit her and, I don't know, meet him? She's barely talked about this guy.
Yeah, but at the same time, the first thing they do is try to pressure her to put it off. And when she shows resistance, they try to bribe her to put it off.
Okay, it's true.
And they also start talking to her like, oh, we'll get you a house. We'll get you, you can set it up. You can reflect our lives back at us, set you up in a house and something stable so that you can have kids. And maybe if the football thing doesn't work out, we can get him a job somewhere else. And we'll have time to work that out. And that's not what Peg wants at all. These seem like parents who do not listen to their child.
No. They are not listening to their kid, but to be frank, what could they have listened to? She wrote to them. What did they say? She wrote a couple of letters barely mentioning him. She's dated a bunch of other people in the last couple of years. There was nothing in her communications that made them suspect that she was more serious about this guy than anybody else. And communication with kids is a mixed bag, and kids have the right to be able to figure out their lives and figure out how they want to reflect society or, rebel against it or find their own way. Yes, those are things that kids as they become adults need to do. But I don't think it's unreasonable for parents to come in and say, why don't we just take a step back and think about this a little bit?
I think that the movie's trying very hard to present this as a reasonable thing to do. And I think that you're basically right, that it would be probably good to reflect on this a bit, probably. But I think that Peg doesn't communicate to her parents because they are controlling.
Ooh, I think you might be putting too much on the parents from the very little that we see.
Well, that's fair. But also the movie is putting a lot on the parents from the very little that we see in terms of holding them up as a model. I mean, this is fascinating. I think it's safe to say that both of us and probably most people who are old, know people who've gotten into rushed relationships where it has worked out just fine.
Yes.
And we also know people who've been in, relationships that took their time and were very thoughtful that nevertheless at some point fell apart.
Yes. And vice versa for those ideas.
Oh, yeah, of course. So from the evidence that the movie shows us, it's very hard to actually make a sensible decision. But the movie is very narrow-minded about what love is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. Because in every one of the cases that we see, love is leading to marriage and forever. Love is not a short-lived thing. Love is not a sharing of lives that doesn't involve heterosexual marriage, to be specific, and setting up a very specific kind of successful life in the view of what successful looks like in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly.
Football might not work out. We need to think about what else your future husband could do as a job.
Exactly. And does that matter as far as love goes? Well, I mean, it does for some people and it doesn't for other people. And those people are not wrong.
No.
I don't know. There's just lots of options. This is a complicated thing. And this movie is very black and white. I mean, it's literally black and white, but
Yeah. But it's also, I know it's making a lot of implications, but at no point in time does the movie explicitly say Peg sucks and is stupid.
I mean,
it says Peg's impulsive. And it says, Liz is far more tempered inside of her relationship with her beau. But there isn't a single point in time where they're like, Peg's never going to make it. They don't. I mean, they don't. I know they imply it.
They heavily imply it.
Sure. But at the end, I'm not sure that I believed that Peg was any, and maybe this is because at my ripe old age of old, I've seen relationships that have lasted and not lasted. I've seen relationships Don and Melanie, who were married and then broke up and then got married again. Like relationships do that sometimes and, morph and change over time. I've seen that. So looking at this now, the things that it might be laying out as implied Peg is wrong is not necessarily hitting the same for me. And I wonder if you had asked me decades ago which was the most successful relationship, what I would have said. Because there's also something to be said for a relationship that's capable of being hot and heavy.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I, of course, watched this first when it came out in 1993, when I would have been 18.
Did you think it was love then?
I mean, I thought it was fantastic to hear Mike and the bots tear apart this aggressively heteronormative short and constantly slide in the fact that other possibilities exist, whether it is, is this love or is this just rough sex with Michael Douglas?
Or,
yes.
Yeah, Fatal Attraction or Basic Instinct. Michael Douglas was really making a go at those movies at the time.
There's also, there's a few moments where they open up the possibility space for queer lives and other types of love. There's a joke at the end, which is probably not how you'd phrase the joke now, but nevertheless was great to encounter in 93, where at the end of it, when they're asking all these other questions, I think Tom says, can love transcend gender? Which is so far from the maker of this film's understanding of what the possibilities of love is, that hearing something like that being said is just like, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sometimes you got to hand it to this crew, even though this is a crew that doesn't always get that message right. Because they go on directly into Teen-age Strangler to be horrible about Mikey.
Yeah, occasionally horrible about Mikey.
Hey, Chris, did you ever have a punk rock phase?
This is my punk rock phase. What do you want from me? You were in a band with me, and we did folk punk type stuff.
At the time, I believe they referred to us as indie folk. I'm not sure that we were going to be filed under punk inside of Amoeba Records.
Obviously there is, punk that is punkier, but
Sure.
Punk is not an aesthetic. It's an attitude to have to the world.
Very much so. Do you remember what the first punk song was that you ever listened to or recognized as punk?
All right. Well, we're going to get into taxonomy of what is punk and what isn't. I think the first punk song I would have heard, and you can debate whether this counts as punk or not,
sure,
is going to be something by the Ramones.
Okay.
It's going to be Beat on the Brat or I Want to Be Sedated, one of those.
Yeah, I can see that.
I would have heard Sex Pistols shortly after, and I think most people agree that they're punk, even though they were very commercially punk, but whatever.
Yeah.
Why do you bring this up? Charlotte?
Well, I bring this up because when we are listening to the ever popular Yipe Stripes, they start listing off a whole bunch of punk bands. And I was trying to think about who would have been the first punk band that I listened to and about the journey that I have through punk as a very straight-laced white lady.
Sure.
Which is a really weird position to be in the punk world.
I guess so. I don't know. I guess you never really put the egg in your hair and made it into a mohawk.
No, I never did. Well, I did one time wear a mohawk to UC Berkeley when I was in high school, but I listened to punk rock music long before then. The first punk song that I can remember listening to was a Butthole Surfer song.
Okay.
Which is one of the bands that they mention when they're listing off a whole bunch of punk music. Certainly I heard the Ramones. Certainly I heard the Clash, they were on the radio as a mainstream hit. I don't know how I heard the Butthole Surfers, but they have a song that in my memory has a lot of surf guitar type melodies or whatever. And then they stop the guitar and they spit. They stop the guitar and they burp. They stopped the guitar, and in my mind, I remember them doing some barfing noises or something. I went back and listened to the song. Now I can't remember the name of it. I gotta look it up.
Okay.
This was the song that I remember listening to while riding in the car with my parents
Oh.
from like first grade or something. I don't even know my parents were listening to like punk music. They were not.
That doesn't. I've met your parents many times, and that does not sound like what your parents would be playing in the car.
No. But at some point in time, like I remember this Butthole Surfer song and just being amazed, aghast, right? That like all of this music I've listened to my whole life, I hadn't thought you could stop playing the guitar and burp and that was acceptable. And I know that's not what punk is. Punk is so much more, but like it's such a flagrant disregard for what the rules of music happened to be at the time. And I remember just being so charmed by the Butthole Surfers.
First off, it's great. It's great that you're charmed by the Butthole Surfers. That's absolutely the vibe they're going for, charm.
Sure.
I recently listened to my first Butthole Surfers album, which has the charming name Locust Abortion Technician. I don't remember that song being on it, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, at least for me, in a way that I wasn't really expecting. It was very much not for everyone, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So listeners, I guess check that out if you only know Pepper.
Yeah. Like, I am not as charmed by Pepper Butthole Surfers as I am by 80s Butthole Surfers for whatever reason. But it did form like the basis of a friendship that I had with a middle school friend of mine who got me into the Dead Milkmen.
Oh, yes.
By way, I mean, which also happened by way of MTV, because, I mean, most people who were watching MTV inside of the 80s probably remember the song Punk Rock Girl.
Yep.
Fantastic. I mean, the number of times that I've gone through my life saying, well, no, we only have it iced is phenomenal. I mean, extraordinarily large. But Punk Rock Girl was a song that I got into, and it brought me into the Dead Milkmen. And of course, then I got to listen to many of their albums like Beelzebubba and Metaphysical Graffiti. And I got to see the Dead Milkmen in concert when I was in high school. I had to lie to my parents to be able to go out to the concert with my friend.
Because they wanted to take you to the Butthole Surfer show.
Can you believe they weren't able to do it? It was on the same night as the Dead Milkmen, and you had to choose who would put that choice before you. But of course, like the Dead Milkmen and Punk Rock Girl, not their best song, but certainly their MTV hit for whatever reason, mentions Mojo Nixon because they go to a record store and they ask for Mojo Nixon and they say he doesn't work here. And so, of course, like here's this name, Mojo Nixon. So I wanted to know more about Mojo Nixon. Mojo Nixon also had an MTV hit, Elvis is Everywhere. Perhaps you remember it.
I might if I hear it, but it doesn't ring a bell just saying it.
Fair enough. It has lots of Elvis, people dressed as Elvis. It starts with the premise that Elvis is in everyone, that there's a little bit of Elvis in everyone you see, except for one person, the anti-Elvis. But my sister and I, when we were both very young, would listen to the song. We thought it was hilarious. And we would walk around. There's a part of the song where they talk about the Bermuda Triangle. What's the Bermuda Triangle? Elvis needs boats. Elvis needs boats. I love this song. It's the best premise ever. It's so phenomenal. So Mojo Nixon, like a stay inside of my mind for these songs that are irreverent and they're funny and they're highly listenable. Elvis is Everywhere is just a knee slapper. It's so much fun to listen to. And then when I got to college, I found a Mojo Nixon record that was inside of the college radio station and started listening to it. And Mojo Nixon did an album with Jello Biafra.
Yes.
Called A Prairie Home Invasion. This came out while I was in college, so, like you don't already know how old I am. And it has a song on it called Are You Drinking With Me, Jesus? Sung by Mojo Nixon. And that became the name of the radio show that I did when I was at KWCW inside of the college that I went to. So,
because if there's two things you love, it's drinking and Jesus.
It's exactly. But they also had a song called Love Me, I'm a Liberal.
Yeah. Which
Jello Biafra sang. If you have never heard Jello Biafra's voice before, you're wrong. You have, right? Like, it is so distinct and you have absolutely heard Jello Biafra's voice. And I didn't know it from the Dead Kennedys. Because growing up, like seriously, I listened to the Butthole Surfers. I listened to the Dead Milkmen, but somehow I had missed the Dead Kennedys, even though I was growing up in San Francisco.
Oh.
How weird is that? I had to come to the Dead Kennedys from learning about Jello Biafra, from Mojo Nixon, from the Dead Milkmen.
And it's the Dead Kennedys who get the shout out in the MST3K episode.
Exactly. And who would have thought, like, how did I not know? And the thing, I mean, in the back of my mind, after reading a little bit about Jello Biafra and seeing some videos of him giving interviews inside of the 80s, I know that my parents talked about Jello Biafra without naming him by name because he ran for mayor.
Oh, right.
The 70s. And I remember them talking about like crazy weirdos running for mayor of San Francisco, you know, like, and at the time that he ran for mayor, my parents would have just moved out of the city, right? They might have even been able to vote for him had it been a year earlier or something like that, which is just astonishing to think of, like my parents walking in and just being like, well, I could vote for Dianne Feinstein, but there's also this crazy kid named Jello Biafra. Perhaps he'd be a good mayor. He thinks cops should have to run for office to get their jobs in neighborhoods. That's a bold strategy, Jello. Let's see how that plays out.
California Uber alles? That seems like a little too many people for California to be Uber.
I mean, a great song. And they were asked to play it at an awards show because the awards show wanted something that gave them some like punk rock credibility. And they came out on the stage and they came out starting to play California Uber Alles. And then they were like, nah, we got to grow up, everybody. We got to play a serious song. And so they started playing a song that just ripped apart the idea of fame and fortune and creating music for the sake of finding a place in fame. And it was all about like, is my dick big enough? Am I a good enough whatever? And it's just like, dang. And then they like lanced the My Sharona song, singing My Payola. Oh, my God, Jello Biafra and the Dead Kennedys were like, yeah, they're punk rock. I'm sorry, like for whatever definition of punk rock you want to have, you can burp after stopping your guitar solo, but that's punk rock, man. Running for mayor of San Francisco in 79, punk rock. Punk rock.
So Mike and the Bots are throwing out these punk bands and also music for 18 musicians by Steve Reich, or as Mike refers to him, Stephen Reich. Sure.
Sure.
Because the woman, Mary, is the character's name, who's about to sing Yipes Stripes, gets all excited and tells everybody, if you love Peter, Paul, and Mary and the Beatles.
Yeah, very punk rock.
And, well, I don't think she's claiming to be punk rock, but
no, but it's very funny for that to be their...
And then she says something which I can't make out. They riff over it. I watched it in the unriffed version. I still couldn't figure out what she's saying. Something like, Kinky? I don't know what that is. Then she lists Paul Anka, and then she lists the Chad Mitchell Trio. Now, couldn't figure out what Kinky was, but the Chad Mitchell Trio.
Are they punk rock?
Well, they're folk rock, which is the punk rock of its era, perhaps.
Sure.
The Chad Mitchell Trio just has a little interesting detail that I was surprised to learn. At some point, Chad Mitchell of the Chad Mitchell Trio left the band. But they kept using his name. There were no other Mitchells in the band, but they went on being the Mitchell Trio, and they were looking for somebody to replace Chad Mitchell. So who do you think they tapped? That's right, a young John Denver.
Oh my gosh!
So John Denver was the Chad Mitchell of the Mitchell Trio after Chad Mitchell left.
Gosh, I've always thought of him as a Chad. Chris, we've talked about punk rock. We've talked about Hollywood couples. There might be a final factoid maybe that you have for us about something completely different.
Well, a little different. So a few years ago, there was a 60th anniversary screening. So this would have been in 2024. 60th anniversary screening in Huntington, West Virginia of the movie. And there's a really lovely, local talk show where the person who's organizing it, who's a local director, who seems like a lot of fun, and also the last living cast member of the movie.
Oh, Oh, that's bittersweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's 60 years ago, so but yeah, it's one of the other gang members who doesn't really, I don't even know if he gets a line, but he's in a few scenes and he gets to, he was there, and it's, he obviously did not become an actor. I think he does insurance or something.
Sure.
Either way, he just thinks it's kind of neat to be part of this. And, they tell a few stories, such as, where did they get the leather jackets from? They borrowed them from the cops.
Oh my gosh. No wonder those bulldogs could come right off the back. So the town gathered to celebrate this movie as if it brought something to the town.
100%, that's how it's framed. This is a wonderful thing that happened right here in Huntington that we can all be proud of. And yeah, it was considered a bad movie, but actually it's just cheesy and charming and delightful. Got to be on MST3K. You can see parts of town. You can see the front of the high school, the old high school or whatever I think they say.
Okay.
You can see other things. You can see the old mayor in it. Like, there's a connection to the city that means the city can enjoy it. And it's not like an intolerable movie to sit through. So
True. Okay.
If you have the local connection, of course. And they were all excited. They talk about in this clip, which I'll link to, the young local director who's putting this together is talking about how one of the things that they have that they're excited about is a hand-painted poster of the movie made by someone in Ghana.
What?
Yep.
What?
Someone in Ghana hand-painted a movie poster for Teen-age Strangler and then sent it along.
No, I don't understand. That doesn't make sense.
It's a great world.
How did the movie make itself to Ghana?
It's on YouTube. Like, anyone can watch it. It was on MST3K. This happened 2 years ago. Ghana is not...
That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is, like, how of all of the cultural touch points that there are, of all of the media that's out there, of all the movies and everything... There was someone in Ghana who found Teen-age Strangler and Huntington, West Virginia, and loved it so much that they hand-painted something for this town for an anniversary. Like, that's a wild journey for something as obscure as this movie. That's what I'm saying. Not that Ghana is so removed, but that anyone, like somebody in San Francisco finding this would be, and hand-painting something would be just as wild.
I mean, you and I just spent like an hour talking about it, so...
Yeah, but as you said at the beginning of this, I didn't come here to watch Teen-age Strangler. I came here to watch MST3K, and they forced me to watch Teen-age Strangler. I feel like that person in Ghana had a different journey.
I would love to find out that Huntington, West Virginia is twinned with whatever town in Ghana this guy comes from who painted the poster.
If you've been affected by the issues on this show, if you have any hot tips on things to see in Huntington, West Virginia, or if you'd like to ask us anything, get in touch with us. Our email is info@itsjustashow.com. And we're on Blue Sky, and we would love to hear from you. This show is made possible by listeners like you and like our randomly selected supporter, Deborah. Thank you, Deborah. For about $1 an episode, you can be like Deborah and help us research and record this show. You can join us in a friendly Discord, and you can listen to all our super fan bonus bits. Find out more at itsjustashow.com/Patreon or patreon.com/itsjustashow. And if you want to follow up on anything that was mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com/episode/192. Well, Chris, neither of us are teenagers anymore, so we clearly survived the strangling. What's up next for us?
Well, we might as well get ready for it. We're going to be looking at Season 3, Episode 18, Star Force, Fugitive Alien.
Whoa, Chris, I don't know if I'm ready. Am I ready?
Well, it's the sequel to Fugitive Alien, and it's also the remade version from KTMA Episode 3. So I wonder what we're going to do immediately after that episode. But listeners, a little programming note tucked away here at the end of the show for those of you who actually listen all the way to the end. I'm going to be doing something which I have not done in my 9 years of podcasting and running this show, which is I'm going to take a little sabbatical for a few months. A little time off, a little restorative, focus on my health a little bit, and not burning out, and all of that. There's not going to be anybody stepping in to my shoes because I would still have to edit it, and that's not a sabbatical. So
No, it isn't.
But we'll be back with regular shows probably in July, so hold on tight for that. But until next time,
See the incredible school zone action.
Mistress Aisha, I'm here for my beating. Take it away, Theme Squad.